I believe that ecumenical movement does not deal only with programs, with finance, with the structures, with institutions, but essentially with people. And through the people, we ensure the ecumenical vision. And we are all committed to the ecumenical vision. Therefore, it is with this profound sense of being together as part of the wider ecumenical movement that I greet you all in this headquarters of the Armenian Catholic Crusade of Cilicia. This is a church center, but at the same time, this is a living center of ecumenism. Here we don't only talk or reflect about ecumenism, we try to live the imperatives of ecumenism in our daily life. And this is indeed the meaning and the challenge of ecumenism. Ecumenism is not something that we should think about or write about, but it's a quality of life that must be articulated in all aspects of our Christian life on the local level. I am very happy that you have chosen as the focus of your reflection conciliar ecumenism. I would like to share with you some of my perceptions concerning conciliar ecumenism. But before I do that, I would like just to remind you a few things pertaining to ecumenical life and the present ecumenical landscape, which I believe are of crucial importance in terms of understanding conciliar ecumenism and its implications and imperatives for our Christian and ecumenical life. Speaking about ecumenism, I think it is important to remind ourselves three facts. First, ecumenism or the ecumenical movement is one. In spite of its different manifestations and forms, this oneness, the essential oneness of ecumenism, need to be preserved and deepened and enhanced in our common ecumenical life, reflection, and action. The second fact is that the ecumenical movement is related, dynamically related to our self-perception and self-realization as the Church of God. Therefore, the ecclesiological and missiological dimensions need to be taken in their close interconnectedness in any initiative in any reflection or action that claims to be ecumenical. And third, the ecumenical movement may have, and in fact should have, its institutional manifestations in time and space. But ecumenism is essentially a movement. It's the gift of God, which blows from different corners. And we see that its vertical and horizontal manifestations. We see that the Spirit, in all aspects, at all levels of our Christian life. Therefore, this movement character of ecumenism need to be preserved in spite of its institutional expressions. Here are 3 points which, in my view, are essential to understand the true meaning and the purpose and the goal of the ecumenical movement. Speaking about conciliar ecumenism, I believe that 3 growing trends in today's ecumenism need to be taken into serious consideration. In other words, with a discerning eyes and minds, I see in the present ecumenical predicament 3 emerging trends or growing shift of emphasis or increasing move from one reality to other reality. First, I see a growing shift from church-centered to people-centered and oriented ecumenism. The ecumenical movement at the beginning came into some sort of existence and acquired different kinds of institutional forms and expressions through a group of visionary people. These people, in different ways, dedicated themselves to ecumenical movements and tried to emphasize the decisive importance of ecumenism in the life of their churches. Then we see that ecumenism acquires slowly an institutional character, ecclesiastical, not ecclesiological, ecclesiastical character, with the growing commitment of the institutional churches in different ways and forms of ecumenism. In other words, ecumenism became, early in 60s, with the Assembly of New Delhi particularly, a heavily church-centered, institution-centered movement with clear institutional manifestations. In the last 2 decades, I see this growing move from institutional church-centered ecumenism to people-centered, people-oriented ecumenism. In other words, ecumenism is in process of becoming what I call extra-ecclesiam. extra-institutional church a movement. Why? There are certain reasons behind this movement. First, I see clearly the lack of ownership on the part of institutional churches, the increasing penetration of so-called non-church related agenda items on the agenda of the ecumenical movement created some sort of distance on the part of the churches vis-à-vis the institutional expressions of the ecumenical movements. The financial support coming from mainly non-church related donor agencies made the ecumenical institution a reality quite far from the actual life of the churches. The second move is from multi-confessional ecumenism to confessional ecumenism. From its very inception, the ecumenical movement was able to bring together various confessions, various traditions, various theologies, and put them in creative and coherent interaction. That was, in fact, the great achievement of the ecumenical movement. Ecumenism was a place, was a forum, was a context where our differences came into close interaction. Again, in the last few decades, I see a sort of shift from multi-confessional ecumenism to confessional ecumenism. The churches spent much of their human and financial resources to confessional ecumenism than multi-confessional ecumenism. If this process continues the way it is, my fear is that ecumenism may lose its integrity and its profound meaning as the place of interaction of confessions and theologies and traditions. And finally, I see a growing trend from global to regional and local ecumenism. Again, one of the great achievements of the ecumenical movement was that it was able to bring together the global, regional, national, and local dimensions of ecumenism. By the way, ecumenism is essentially a local reality because the church is a local reality. But ecumenical movement was able to take the churches beyond localism, beyond their self-centered, self-contained self-understanding. The ecumenical movement challenged the churches to transcend their confessional and local boundaries and engage in creative and interaction with the other churches. I consider the General Secretaries not the persons who deal with the daily administration of the councils. No,